Hello and welcome to your post-daily news show for Wednesday, April 27th. I am John Pollock, joined by Wai Ting, live from Toronto.
Hello, John. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. You been outside today? Dude, it's cold.
I have, yeah. Got my winter tires changed, and maybe I'm wondering if I should be holding off because feels like we might even get -0, -2.
What's going on? What's going on? It's almost May.
I said -0 as if that's an actual thing, but it feels like it. Okay, I don't know. You explain it to me, John.
I don't get it.
Should have stayed in California.
You should have. You missed the snowstorm.
I hope I did.
Well, we will see. Well, today we've got lots to go over, including the return of COVID to the wrestling world, affecting two world champions, Wai. We got the news early on Wednesday that Kazuyuki Fujita has tested positive for COVID and thus is off Saturday's card. NOAH is doing back-to-back shows on Friday and Saturday from Sumo Hall, and Saturday's show was to feature Fujita defending the title against Go Shiozaki, the former champion, and now the title is vacant as per tradition in Japan. When you have a scheduled title defense and you can't make it, the belt is vacated. This has happened to All Japan recently, now affecting NOAH. So they held a press conference, and Go Shiozaki is going to wrestle someone for the vacant title on Saturday. They did an angle where Kaito Kiyomiya stepped up and challenged Shiozaki, but they stated they could not make a decision yet regarding this match for Saturday. I don't know why. Kiyomiya is scheduled for a match on the show in a tag match, but we will see what happens. So they've got Friday show and then Saturday show, and coming out of it, we should have a new GHC heavyweight champion.
Yeah, I mean, Japan, or I guess NOAH themselves, have this rule when I would say other companies don't really. Is it always the case with something like this, or do they ever do interim championships, or do they ever delay?
Traditionally, no. They do the vacating of the title once something is announced. I mean, if you don't have a scheduled title defense, then you could see interim titles introduced, or you hold off on it. But yeah, this is by and large what they do when there is a scheduled match and the person cannot perform. So obviously Fujita can come back, and you can do a match at that point of whoever comes out of this as champion. And I guess it'll be noteworthy whoever does come out as champion here with Kiyomiya, if in fact he gets inserted into the match. He had the title several years ago, and then had I thought a very rough 2021 with all of the Muto stuff, never getting that win, that this could catapult him back. Or you put Shiozaki back in this role, because I don't think this Fujita title reign has been met with a lot of positivity.
Yeah, I was going to ask, from what you've been able to see, what has been the fan reaction to, I mean, obviously it's unfortunate whenever, illness affects somebody, but in terms of perhaps what it means for the NOAH title picture, what has been the fan interaction like?
I think it's been largely negative. I'm curious to see. I don't know what the advances are for Sumo Hall this weekend, but that's also worth noting. If they're ahead of whatever pace you would expect or not, you would assign some of that to Fujita. But he had I hated the ending of the match with Nakajima. I thought they really had something with Nakajima, and it wasn't just Fujita winning, but also the way in which he won. That was just, to me, really downgraded Nakajima as beneath Fujita. And then they did the match with Fujita and Masato Tanaka last month, and yeah, it just seems that NOAH is trying a lot of different ideas to throw against the wall, and I don't think a lot of them are sticking with some of their choices of who they are putting forward. You also have Masakatsu Funaki as your GHC national champion, which is something different. Again, you're going to the past with someone and doing a lot of kind of shorter matches, but I think that has its place on the card. When it comes to your heavyweight picture, you have a lot of dynamic heavyweights in this company, Fujita not being one of them.
Okay, so it'll be interesting to see if they continue with Fujita once he becomes healthy enough, or if this is a reason for them to change course.
Yes, so we will see. The other world champion impacted is Hangman Page, who announced this morning that he will not be part of tonight's Dynamite in Philadelphia. He had not been advertised for any match or segment, but you would naturally think there would have been a follow-up after the Punk showdown last week, moving that forward. But in his tweet, pretty much alluding to the fact that he is dealing with COVID as well. So hopefully, yeah, it's just a quick issue that he's dealing with and could be back next week. If it's not as though they're in some rush with Double or Nothing at the end of next month, that this is going to curtail anything significantly, and hopefully it's just a 1 week thing for both Fujita and for Page.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's a way of the world right now. You know, these things are going to happen with all facets of business, and I guess they could be thankful that it's not happening on a pay-per-view weekend or a weekend of a title defense where Hangman Page is really needed. But of course, we also hope that he gets through the illness relatively quickly and that we don't have any lasting repercussions of it. Yeah,
I mean, and also like transparency by both companies, just stating it. Like, I don't think any audience is like batting an eye that this is almost going to be as acceptable as like, someone suffering a training injury or something like that. It's just, this is just the reality. And probably a lot of your audience has probably gone through this, or at the very least, someone close to them. So it's just the way of the world, as Wai put it very well. Tuesday night, NXT 2.0 went down, Wai. And did you get to see any of Tuesday night's program?
I did. Yes, I did.
What a utilization of Rick Steiner. So Joe Gacy came out with his druids and pronounced that Braun Breaker is not cleared for next week. So out comes Rick Steiner, who presumably got on a plane for this, to come out and tell Joe Gacy, no, Braun is cleared. And then Braun Breaker came out, and that was Rick Steiner's day. Yes, he is cleared. This was the most bizarre use of a man's time that I can recall. God bless him. Man loves his son. But I did not know what the purpose of Rick Steiner in this segment was. And damn that music. You brought it up at the Hall of Fame. It was less glaring to me this time than when the music played and like Joe Gacy reacts like, what is this music? I have no idea. And out walks the dog-faced gremlin.
I think they've had really plenty of opportunity to use Rick Steiner. For one thing, I mean, you would figure maybe the day after the WrestleMania weekend, where presumably he and his brother would still be in town. How about Braun Breaker winning the NXT Championship on Raw? And wouldn't that be a more opportune time to for us to see Rick Steiner? Instead, we've seen him in some sort of this weird kidnapping angle with no payoff whatsoever. He's just freed somehow. And the next time we see him, all he does is come out here.
Yeah, did Braun give him the ring back? We didn't even get like that on camera about him giving the Hall of Fame ring back to Rick after it was put in his pocket last week.
A lot of unanswered questions here in this story. Maybe for a future follow-up tell-all. But this Joe Gacy Braun Breaker feud, I'm not at all interested in it as a main event program. The druids that they have coming out with Joe Gacy now, I think are corny as hell. They look like a very low-budget version of like whatever 90s Undertaker gimmick that they might be trying to mimic.
I feel like back when you and I were attending Toronto Metropolitan University, if we had done a remake of Scream with a Toronto Metropolitan University radio and television arts budget, that would have been our remake. But what about the passage of the title with everyone coordinating that, standing in line?
I wonder how many times they have to practice it and practice the blocking, make sure that everybody does it in the proper pace. One person doesn't do it too fast. One person doesn't do it too slow.
Imagine if they dropped the title. That would have just been the icing on the cake.
Yeah. I listen, like cloaks are easy, I suppose, but I guess I'm just a little disappointed that we went from what felt maybe might have been a controversial character, but I would say a fresh character nonetheless, to now what just feels like a very generic, evil supervillain.
I think they're going to double down on this character. Like with everything involving like Elon Musk right now with Twitter, I think it's going to be even more relevant now for them to really play up like the woke Joe Gacy character. Like I think
they haven't though during this run.
Not as much, but I can see.
He's been a kidnapper. Well, Elon Musk hasn't kidnapped people. At least I don't think so.
Well, this is one character I could certainly see making the move to the main roster, and they really go all in with it. Like this is one that I can see tailor-made for a run on the main roster. But yes, we have Spring Break-In next week. Also, there was no Harland in this segment again, right?
No, he was not, unless he was one of the Druids. But yeah, he's been absent as of late.
We also got the announcement of the Women's Breakout Tournament that's going to be starting. So we got Ariana Grace, which is the name now of Bianca Corelli, the daughter of Anthony Corelli. And I really liked her video package here. They showed, her martial arts background and training in combat sports. And I thought for somebody that, has, minimal experience, I thought she came off as like a really strong personality in this video piece. They also have announced
it's one of those moments. Like she's a local, so like we've heard about her around, but like it's one of those moments where, because like back with the Fight Network, like we George Barbosa and I worked on like some interview segments with Santino Marella, and as part of some of those features, we got to see some early footage of him with his daughter, and she must have not been even like 10. And to see her now about to make her WWE debut, like it just makes me feel really old, as do many of the entrants in this women's breakout tournament when I learn about their ages.
Are you ready for me to shatter your world with my age trick game?
Sure, why not?
So next week on Rewind Away, what are we reviewing, Wai?
We will be looking at a New Japan Pro Wrestling show from 2013?
No, 2003.
2003. Oh, damn.
We're reviewing the Tokyo Dome show from January 4th of 2003. The day after that show, the new Sloane Jacobs was born, and she, formerly Amelia Eyre, is going to be competing in this tournament. We also had Lash Legend announced, and Kiana James, who is the former Kayla Inlay, who was, we saw her a bit on AEW Dark and Elevation, and she's doing a total, like, Alexandra York style of character with the York Foundation, where she has figured out the formula on her computer of how to beat all of these opponents. I mean, this is the most throwback of characters to me. I mean, some of these were just absolutely hilarious to watch.
They are, but they're going for it. And I mean, when I watch NXT again, I think I watch it very differently from other people. Like, to me, it's the campiness is like kind of part of the appeal, like it's kind of a cross maybe between Glow and maybe what we look for in modern professional wrestling, and this definitely feels more of the Glow era.
This was very Glow in its presentation, but that tournament will be starting imminently. We also had the introduction of Tony D'Angelo's two Goombas, as he described them, Troy Two Dimes Donovan and Channing Lorenzo, or as he's called on the streets, Stacks.
I think I think these two would fit perfectly into the Jericho Appreciation Society with the group.
Oh, could you imagine Matt Menard and Ange Parker with these hats on and the shirts? I just love the difference in it. Like, one, Troy Two Dimes Donovan, and then the other one, Channing Lorenzo. That sounds like he's on Days of Our Lives, or as we call him, Stacks.
Yes, of course. It's again, I don't know if you can how you can watch this and just not like think of it as camp. It's a different style of professional wrestling than I think most of what our audience listening to this podcast wants. But let's
appreciate the hat formation. Like they're both like the symmetry. Like the hat veers down in equal parts, left and right, and then you have Tony D'Angelo just wearing it straight in the middle. I mean, that's great blocking.
It's like a mountain. Yeah, but D'Angelo at this point, I think, has shown enough personality and comfort in front of the camera to be able to lead a faction. And I don't know enough about the two performers that are standing behind him right now, but I guess everybody kind of needs their start, and everybody needs to be attached to something.
No, look at those two. They are excited. They are excited about this run coming up. One group that I don't know what the deal is that they're doing with Sangha, but they clearly have either blown that off or they're going to some program. I think Grayson Waller has been just a tremendous personality on this show. And when he met up with Tiffany Stratton, I think this pairing could be a really great act together. I think they complement each other very well. I haven't been the biggest Tiffany Stratton fan on this show, but these two together, I think there's something there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, as they seem like characters that fit well together as a tandem, as a couple, or maybe as a platonic relationship. There's definite possibility. Sure. Yeah. And his first program seems to be, or at least his next program seems to be against Ben Carter.
Yeah, so Nathan Frazier was supposed to debut, but then he was jumped by Waller, and they're going to do that match next week instead on Spring Break-In. So I kind of prefer that. It's like you shoot an angle with him so that his first match has some more stakes than just shows up and wrestles. So that's happening next week.
Did they pair him with? Is he a part of Chase U, Nathan Frazier?
They certainly aligned him with Chase U. Yeah. I don't know if he's actually going to be involved or not, but yeah, Andre Chase came to and Bodie Hayward came to his assistance on the show. And then the Viking Raiders were brought in, so they had them just destroy Idris Enofe and Malik Blade to set up Viking Raiders and the Creed brothers next week, which is probably just going to be a wild tag match of four guys just beating the hell out of each other. That's what I expect for next week. And why not? I mean, the Viking Raiders, I cannot even tell you off the top of my head what brand these two are on.
I have no idea at this point. And it tells me that an NXT run is probably going to be healthy for them.
Yeah, I would be requesting, hey, we can do a lot more than just a 1 week program. Just they're far better utilized here at this point. Like, this is a great team, but they are never going to have anything going for them on Raw or SmackDown at this rate.
Which is a shame, because I think the Raw talent is there, but I mean the creative that's been attached to them has just been really, really awful. But in NXT they are treated by the CWC crowd as main roster stars. In ring, of course, they are fantastic, and I'm actually quite excited to see what sort of results we get with the Creed brothers, who I think they've been doing a tremendous job with.
And then just a few other things I picked up from the show. We had that video with Wes Lee where he was Oceanside and stated, where he is at this crossroads, and said, "I'll never forget my past," and made all the references to having the tag titles taken away from him. He'll never forget his past, but they are certainly not going to directly reference his past. This was the most bizarre thing to watch, that his whole story is losing his partner that we cannot mention nor show in any of this video. Like, obviously they do not want to show Nash Carter in any way, but that is, I guess, kind of now they move away from this, and this is going to be the start of his singles run post MSK.
Yeah, or unless he pairs up with another tag partner, but I mean, it looks to be probably more so the direction of the singles run. And we've kind of spoken about it last week, but I mean, in wrestling, there are sometimes events that happen in real life that aren't going to get mentioned, and the audience is going to have to kind of read between the lines, or maybe gloss over it and just kind of catch up with the current stories. And this is one of those cases. They're not going to show Nash Carter, somebody who, if you Google right now, the first result you probably see is him with that Hitler mustache. And instead, though, I think most people watching this know what's up. Similar to an AEW audience, most of the promotion that you get on AEW is strictly online. So I think they're going that direction. For me personally, like, I'm kind of past it, at least, the Nash Carter stuff. And I'm glad to see that they're choosing to use this as an opportunity to, like, focus on Wes Lee.
And they're not just dropping him cold. Like, sometimes when a tag partner is injured and the other guy is just sort of forgotten about, it seems like they're going to go kind of the Dante Martin direction with Wes Lee. And this is like, they're not pressing pause on Wes Lee, who they still have under contract.
I would argue, like, maybe a step in ring is different, because Dante Martin has been great, but at least in terms of, like, Dante Martin never got one of these videos. And that's something, again, I can always say about, like, NXT.
Maybe he doesn't live near the water.
Well, he should move, because I think this video is fantastic. Like, it's very well shot, and the verbiage that they used of Wes Lee saying, it sucks to have to lose the tag team championships, but when it's taken from you, you feel rage. I think it sets up a wonderful story for his comeback.
And the last thing was Mandy Rose beating Roxanne Perez. And afterwards, Wendy Chu got involved as they dropped a net onto Toxic Attraction before they attacked them with silly string. And not the move that Private Party uses, actual silly string. All angles aside here, I think they have a big star in Roxanne Perez. I don't she should be in NXT for some time, but I see this woman being a big star down the road, like 3-4 years from now. She just has all the personality and charisma of a great babyface that this audience seems to take to immediately. I think very highly of Roxanne Perez and her road here in NXT and eventually at some point on the main roster.
In ring, she already really stands out amongst NXT because of her, just advanced skill level amongst this current crop. I don't disagree with you. I think she's a tremendous talent. I mean, the big question, though, of course, ultimately is, does Vince McMahon see that star in there?
Yeah, maybe she'll be a heel and say, I tried to make you fans happy, but I'm not listening to the fans any longer. And she'll be a despicable heel. Maybe that's the road to go. But that was NXT. Next week is Spring Breakin' with Braun Breaker and Joe Gacy. Natalya and Lash Legend teaming up against Cora Jade and Nikita Lyons, which was set up on Tuesday. Grayson Waller and Nathan Fraser. The Creed brothers against the Viking Raiders. And then Cameron Grimes, Carmelo Hayes, and Solo Sikoa for the North American title. And of course, a sit-down meeting between Tony D'Angelo and Santos Escobar. They're not going to stand. There will be chairs present for a formal sit-down.
No contracts either. They'll just be sitting.
No, but look at this. Each flag represented here. So this international affair with these two sitting down and maybe playing cards.
Maybe talking F1. Maybe it'll be like he looks like a Ferrari fan for sure.
Well, he has to be. Yeah. Ferrari and I don't know what's.
And Legato is probably a Sergio Perez fan.
Okay, well, there you have it. So I look forward to that next week. So NXT 2.0. Let's move on to ratings notes and go into Raw. On Monday night, the show did 1,613,000 viewers, a .44 in the 18 to 49 demo. This was their lowest in 3 months. Again, against the NBA playoffs, it's taking its hit. There was a 13% loss in viewers over the show, but the demo pretty much stayed the same. Like it went up in the second hour, but then came back to the hour one level in the final 60 minutes. They were down 16% in 18 to 34 this week, and down 15% in men 18 to 49. But in their female viewership, in both 18 to 34 and 18 to 49, they were up this week. So that was a positive just in terms of female viewership. But as you can see with the NBA games that they were against back-to-back games throughout the course of hours 1 through 3. So those were controlling cable on Monday night. But this was a week I was most interested to see what the impact in Canada would be moving to another network, and it was dramatic. So to put into context, last week, Raw did almost 271,000 viewers on its regular home of Sportsnet 360. This week, moving to OLN, they did 66,000 viewers. So the move in network was a 76% drop in viewership and a 65% drop in the 25 to 54 demo. Even more interesting is that Sportsnet 360 aired a replay of Raw at midnight until 3 a.m. and beat the live version with 80,000 viewers and 44,000 in the demo. So that was somewhat surprising way that is like the difference in network, and that more people watch this from midnight till 3 a.m. than from 9 till 11 or 8 till 11 Eastern.
Probably just goes more to show you about the visibility of a Sportsnet versus an OLN. This is also news that I don't know when was it even conveyed that this was even happening, John?
This was only coming out on Monday. So, and it's like a very small amount that are going to be aware of this. Like Sportsnet did put out a announcement that the next 3 weeks or next 2 weeks after this Monday would be affected, but how much is that circulating the day of? Certainly. We'll see in the next 2 weeks if people are more trained to go to OLN, but they are not going to be coming anywhere near what Sportsnet 360 has been doing for Raw, because it's been doing very, very good numbers over the past 2 months in the lead up to WrestleMania and coming out of it as well. But Wai, it is now time for the F1 segment of the Post Daily News Show, and we talked about the ratings coming out of the Italian Grand Prix over the weekend, and that I wonder how this holds up. And Brandon Thurston got to work as soon as our show was done, and this man, I don't know how he works with like his pythons and such, that is above my pay grade to figure out, but he has tabulated the numbers for F1 going back to 2016. And I just poured through these this morning, looking at how F1 has performed. So let's put this into context. Drive to Survive premiered in early 2018, covering the previous season. So if you're looking here, there was definitely a jump in 2019 in terms of their viewership and their demo. They did dip in 2020 during the pandemic, but it seems the real growth has occurred in the last 2 seasons. There was a big jump in 2021, and after 5 Grand Prix races this season, they are at extraordinarily high numbers, averaging 918,000 viewers per race and a 0.34 in the demo. And again, these are the average start time that Brandon has broken down here. This season, 8:31 in the morning is the average start time. So you're eliminating like West Coast viewership. Like we talk about when Rampage airs at 7 and like a 4 o'clock start for the West Coast. I mean, you're talking 5:30 in the morning for the West Coast viewership, and to be pulling these numbers that, as we mentioned, beat major, like Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN on Sunday was beaten by Formula One. Their numbers have just jumped dramatically, especially when you're comparing it to 2018 when this deal started with ESPN, and how high they have jumped.
I mean, personally, as a fan, as a brand new fan, I don't know if you can chalk it up to much beyond the Netflix effect, and also, of course, the controversy perhaps stemming from the Hamilton versus Verstappen feud of the past year as well, I'm sure. I think these are really interesting results, and from what you were telling me yesterday about what the value of that deal was between F1 and ESPN and Disney, I have to think they're in for a huge increase.
Yeah, I mean, when this deal started, when they joined ESPN, the deal, like John Oren has reported that it's in the neighborhood of $5 million per year that they are getting. And their viewership, as you can see here on the chart, from 2018 to now, their viewership has grown 90% compared to like this season, and 183% in 18 to 49. So when you compare this, when we're talking about what AEW is seeking, and they're getting like average annual value of 44 million per year, and this is 5. To me, number one, I think that it's very interesting to watch this, that this to me is like the perfect model you want in your sports content, in that you have a television product that sends you to your streaming product. The difference is these are not all in-house together. You have Netflix and then you have ESPN. So if I'm either side, am I trying to get the other rights? Because if Netflix is looking at live sports, this to me is the easiest decision to make, and is just a drop in the bucket of what they're spending on content to get the to get the F1 rights, so that Drive to Survive sends you, like you and I are perfect examples. We got into the series and thus we wanted to watch the races, but Netflix is our entry point, and then we're going over to TSN or ESPN to watch the races. Can you bring that all in-house? One feeds the other to me, and I think we watch this, and if F1 stands to make a giant increase, I think that's very encouraging for an AEW. That, again, F1 and AEW, they are not your top tier sports rights, but they are that middle class. And if they're getting big increases, like to me, it would make me more optimistic about AEW if I'm seeing like an F1 get a jump and similar growth that AEW has seen, that they can get something, although they're several more years down the road.
Yeah, and if it's not, Netflix, for instance, maybe jumping into live sports, I mean, of course, we're talking about ESPN and Disney, whether it be ESPN Plus or Disney Plus, that would be a wonderful place for a reality show like Drive to Survive, or docuseries, to exist. And is this a model that other sports are looking into?
To me, it would be my objective to be able to have one that serves the other. Like, I would not be looking to just try and have a television only product or a streaming only product. And I don't think any of these media outlets want that either. They want to build their streaming service, but I think you want to facilitate both. Like, cable is still a very, very profitable industry for all of these networks to be in, but you also want to grow your streaming. And this is an example. Like, granted, this is not changing Netflix's world to have an F1 series, but for this industry, it's obviously had a very, very beneficial uptick in engagement and interest, and among a younger audience on top of it. So it would be what I would be striving for if I'm these companies. Now, it gets more tricky if you're looking at ESPN to gobble up all of this, because Drive to Survive is a co-production of Netflix and Formula One. And, you know, the trickiness of you go to an ESPN and then it's a different production, you probably can't use that name. And it just gets more tricky when, you know, Netflix is helping to produce this with Formula One.
There's probably some legal language and all of that, but I mean, the idea of one show moving to another network or streaming service is not unheard of. You know, we have the Marvel shows moving from Netflix over to Disney Plus recently. So
Ultimate Fighter did it. So
yeah, I'm sure many things
over several homes. Yeah.
Yeah, but on the topic of, like, you know, streaming services acquiring sports, you just posted another story up on the site, didn't you?
That's right. One Championship out of Asia has announced a multi-year deal with Amazon Prime. This is for U.S. and Canadian viewers, so it's not a worldwide deal. But this Ariel Hawani added some other details. It's believed to be a 5-year deal, and it will call for a minimum of 12 events per year. And Ariel mentioned, like, airing in prime time, which is a key because One Championship, like, being based in Asia, these are typically very early morning shows. We did see One Championship air several events last year on TNT. They didn't do all that well and did not go back to TNT. So I think that kind of tells you where that went. So this is a example of, like, Amazon Prime getting into kind of an entry level of live sports. And Amazon Prime, I mean, they have the NFL package on Thursday night as well. That's obviously a much larger priority for them. But this does represent an MMA company getting a significant streaming deal. We don't know what the financials are. Obviously, that's a major question. But it's a 5-year deal, and it includes your U.S. market, which is pretty advantageous to have the rights to. And we'll see. Like, One Championship is a promotion that, I mean, if you're a hardcore, you're following this. I mean, they put out some big statements about their growth and such that you kind of have to take at a certain value. But I don't know if this is going to drive people to Amazon Prime or kind of increase One Championship's profile, but it is a noteworthy deal regardless.
And one that I think, you know, like, if it is successful, if it is unsuccessful, will probably at least in some way affect maybe, you know, the thinking of, let's say, an Amazon Prime or somebody towards potentially picking up one of many professional wrestling options that might be out there,
or MMA. I think this is sort of interesting. Is this a case of what we saw a generation ago with TNN kind of dipping their toe in pro wrestling with ECW and then really going all out to get the WWF package the next year with Raw? And is this a case like Amazon Prime? If they want something, I mean, the amount of capital that they have, they can throw whatever at you. And the question is, like, when the UFC rights come up, is this something Amazon Prime would be aggressively going after? And the UFC rights are going to be like that's, I think UFC is right at, I wouldn't say they are at your NBA or Major League Baseball level, but to me, they're right below that. And they come with the addition of a pay-per-view component. And to me, they stand to have the biggest growth over their next deal on top of it. Like, all of these interesting players, like, the more that come to the table, the better it is for these companies if you're getting different people bidding on them. And the ones that can't get the rights, are they looking at similar programming? And that takes you to the pro wrestling avenue.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. It's very, I mean, we have Apple, you know, of course, making some strides in the game as well. So it, again, continues to be a space we'll look at pretty closely.
And another note is the IInspiration. Cassie Lee and Jesse McKay put out a statement earlier today that they are stepping away from in-ring action indefinitely. and not adding any other details beyond, thanking Impact Wrestling. There was also a quote from Scott D'Amore in this, thanking the two and stating they were wonderful to work with. And the Inspiration, they had come in last October at Bound for Glory. They won the Knockouts tag titles and then dropped them last month to Madison Rain and Tennille Dashwood, and then lost to them this past Saturday on the Rebellion pre-show. So that looks to have wrapped them up with the company for now. And I guess we will see, like the way this was worded about stepping away from in-ring action seems to say that they are looking at options outside of wrestling. But I mean, nowhere in this does it, conclude that they will not wrestle in the future. I mean, it seems like that door is open, just they are probably exploring whatever options and must have some plans if they're making this decision now.
I have to imagine so as well. Being so seemingly final with at least their next plans in the professional wrestling world. I mean, one would have to think that they have other options lined up, and we'll probably maybe hear an announcement shortly about what that might be. But they're a team once they left the WWE that I was certainly curious where they would end up. I didn't think AEW would be a good fit for them, just given I think the high level of demand of in-ring ability, which I don't think they've shown. And Impact, they had a run, but I can't really say that it's made much headlines. Even in Impact, and you have kind of like wrestlers or personalities, I should say, coming out of the WWE that are maybe more so known for their personality than their in-ring ability. To me, like the Inspiration always had a ton of that. But is wrestling the best space for them to utilize it? Especially like for women in this industry. I mean, they are going through their prime careers right now. Do they want to spend more time in professional wrestling, or should they be looking elsewhere? So I'm kind of curious to see what their next move is.
And the final thing we'll touch on is Dynamite tonight in Philadelphia at the Leo Chorus Center. WrestleTix noting over 6,000 tickets out for the show. The last time they were in Philadelphia was last October, where they had 6,800 paid, so a little bit beneath that. And we've got the ladder match for the TNT Championship with Sammy Guevara and Scorpio Sky, which, I mean, I feel like I've seen Sammy Guevara in a lot of ladder matches, and he's coming off a pretty incredible one with Cody Rhodes not all that long ago. So it's a pretty high bar when it comes to ladder matches. The Owen Hart qualifying match between Dax Harwood and Cash Wheeler. This is my most anticipated match tonight. And if you have not seen the Road to special, it was tremendous. Like what a great setup for this match. And the way Dax Harwood positioned it, that this, it might not be by blood, but this man is my brother. If ever there was a time way to do the winner going, having the other on his shoulders and the victory roll gets blocked, the Bret Owen finish from WrestleMania 10, this is that match.
I would encourage people to, I think today would be a great time before Dynamite to rewatch Bret versus Owen, any incarnation of it, because I think we'll get a lot of tributes. Even in the Punk match last week, there happened to be a lot of Bret tributes that I probably didn't catch on until after the fact. So expect a lot of it. Punk will be on commentary for this one. So whatever they've been building about their love for Bret Hart, it feels like it might come to a head for this one.
Yes. I mean, these three might be the best ambassadors for the WWE Network, whether they like it or not.
Yeah. No royalties from it, but that is where those matches live.
Yeah, I think this is going to be excellent. Do you think it kicks off the show?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
I kind of like that spot, like the opening match where like we've seen Punk in that role several times, and just kind of your meat and potatoes wrestling match that gets, 15, 18 minutes. And this very well could be the only time you see a singles match between these two. It may not make logical sense to do it ever again beyond this, but I think...
I don't know if it makes much logical sense for this one. Like, it just kind of came out of nowhere. But, I mean, it doesn't really matter. Like, they make it make sense.
I think after you watch the video, I think that they explain why they want to test each other and they want to honor Owen Hart. And this was something that they've always wanted to do. So, yeah, I think that's good. This is going to be a very anticipated match tonight. The Philadelphia Street Fight between Serena Deeb and Hikaru Shida. This is their fifth match in the series. Both are tied. It's 2-2, with Deeb getting 2 submission wins and Shida with 2 pinfall victories, dating back to their last time in Philadelphia in October, which was match number 1 in the series. And this has been Wai's favorite multi-match series going on.
I mean, I'm, in AEW, I'm not used to having so many rematches. So for a match series to get up past 3, I thought
rare.
was I thought was a bit too much. But now that they're setting the expectation, okay, so now we're at 5. And feuds don't end at 5, okay? So I'm pretty sure, I feel like we're going to get a best of 7. And at this point, I'm kind of in for it, Let's, like, they've been quality matches every single time. So we'll see who wins the series. I mean, who's up right now and who's down? Are they tied?
It's 2-2.
Oh, it's 2-2. So it's not a Sixers Raptors situation.
No, not yet.
Okay.
But we will get a 3-2 verdict after tonight. Or not, maybe. I guess Street Fight, you need something conclusive.
In Philly.
That's right. Yeah, in Philadelphia, no less. Huh. Wardlow and Lance Archer will be having a singles match. And then the 10-man tag with Adam Cole, the Young Bucks, and Red Dragon against Dante Martin, the Varsity Blondes, Lee Johnson, and Brock Anderson, as well as the Jericho Appreciation Society calling out Eddie Kingston, Santana, and Ortiz.
Yeah, it's a Dynamite that I would say doesn't necessarily feature a great, main attraction that might attract, casual fans. But, the diehards are going to be really interested in Harwood versus Wheeler. I think Sky versus Guevara in a ladder match, even though I think they've overused the ladder match stipulation, will probably be a very satisfying main event. And then we'll see for the rest of the show what we've got.
And they're only going against one NBA game. Chicago and Milwaukee are playing at 7:30 tonight, and then the bigger game with Golden State and Denver doesn't air till 10, so they avoid that one. So NBA competition regardless, but it is one game because the Raptors don't play till tomorrow night.
I know, I might actually get a chance to watch.
U.S., so not as big a deal. But there you go. So that is going to wrap it up for us. We are back tonight at 10 Eastern, right after Dynamite. We will be live. And Wai, it's been super chatting with you.
It has.
And that's going to bring an end to the show. So thanks to everyone for joining us live. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. What are you waiting for? Hit subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. Dare I ask for a comment below? Love all the comments. And that is it. So thanks to everybody for joining us. And that wraps up the Post Daily News Show.